All right, so a new song, we get a new Lydian Loops Volume 2. So first step is to download that right beneath this video. Remember, use the direct download, and just in case you don't remember, I'm going to go into my Finder here. It's the same as your Windows Explorer, and step 1 would be find this file in your Downloads folder. Step 2 would be unzip. If you've gotten it in a zip format, you have to unzip it. If not, you're good to go. I'm over here in a different tab in my Studio One folder and then in my Sound Sets folder, and I'm dragging Lydian Loops Volume 2 into my Sound Sets folder, just like that. Now, after that's done, step 3, you need to restart Studio One. So we're just going to do that quickly. Okay, we're back. Next step, create a new song. Next step, starting point. That's the Lydian template that we created. Let's give it a name. Let's call this one Amazonia. I see a little Amazon thing I have in my room, so it's being called Amazonia. And make sure in here you've got the correct folder selected. So I'm going to go check that out. I'm in my songs folder. I'm in my Lydian folder, and that's what I'm going to use. If you've got the template, everything should be set up and ready to go. So we're going to push OK. All right, so we're in the session here. First thing we can do is go over to Loops, and we should find Lydian Loops Volume 2. Let's expand that and check out what's in there. We got this drums folder here, and within the drums we've got full loops and separated. So full loops is what it sounds like. It's the entire drum loops all together. As you'll see, we have a separated folder here we're going to check out in a second. First thing to do though in this session, actually we're going to set this tempo to be 100. We're going to make the song at 100 BPM or near there. If you want to be different, you can go to something somewhat similar. It's just that all these loops are designed to be played at 100. And if you go too far out of that, the time stretching might screw things up a little bit. So in the full loops, turn this up a bit. We've got some cool new drum loops. Standard. Next thing we've got here is the separated section. This is actually the same loops, but now the elements have been separated. So each kit, you'll see there's kit 1 here, and there's 3 beats that kit 1 plays. And that's separated, each one is separated into the beat and the hats. Now, kit 1 also has toms in it. So if I play this, this is just the kick and the snare. Same with this. And here's just the hi-hats. And then these ones are for the drum fills in them, for the toms. And we've got it for every kit here. You can explore this. They're all separated into their component parts. This is done so that in case you want a part where the hi-hats go away, you can get just the beat. Or if you want just the hi-hats and no beat, then you can do that as well. Below that, we've got effects. Effects are basically these like sweeps and bursts and impacts like this or that and so on. So this is like ear candy, stuff to place in the song. Probably this will get used once you're making the full arrangement. You might put some in the main loop as well, but more this would be for when you're actually exploding your song into the parts like I spoke about earlier. Below that we've got instruments, and we've got a bunch of different things in here, sort of similar to Volume 1, but new loops. We're in a new key. Remember Volume 1 was in E minor. Now we're in C major because we've learned to play with our trusty QWERTY keyboard or MIDI controller if you've got one in C major. That's all the white keys. And so in here, same as before, we've got a bunch of loops that you can all stick together and make your song out of. So a couple notes about this. First is that all these instrument loops are dry. Dry means they don't have any reverb or any echo delay. If you don't know what reverb is, it's that thing that if you're in a big space, like say a canyon or a huge theater or a huge room, and you clap or you yell and it goes, huge explosion and the sound lasts for a long time, that's reverb. That's the sound waves coming off your hand, hitting the walls and coming back to you. And so you're kind of hearing this sloshed version of the sound that comes back to you in this big wave. That's what reverb is. And in the previous Lydian loops, those loops had reverb, what's called baked into them, printed on them, meaning that the reverb was in the file. Because reverb makes things sound good, and we hadn't learned yet how to use reverb, which we're going to do this time around. And so now we want to have our loop speed dry so that we can choose when we're making the song how much reverb each loop has. So that's the first thing to note. The second thing to note is that in all these instruments parts, there's no melodies really. That's because we're going to be composing our own melodies using MIDI, using synths and samplers, just like we did before in the last task, but now we're going to be doing it on our own song here. So no reverb, no melodies, drums, effects, instruments. That's really all there is to it. So in the next video, we're going to get started making the main loop for the song.